back, Gongchik. Statement 12. We're still at around statement 12. So in the notes that Sobish provides, Doja Sherab said, some people claim that in the Mantrayana, the original state of channels, winds, and drops, here called bodhicitta, drops and bodhicitta, they're same, completely and teaches the original state of channels, winds, and drops completely and in all aspects, revealing the original state as it is. Therefore, such teachings can be found in the authoritative scriptures, the Gangyo, the Buddha word. Jikten Sumgon, however, maintained that some aspects of the original state were hidden by Vajradhara, and thus not elaborated, not mentioned in the Tantras. To prevent unguided entering of the mandala, says Doja Sherab, meaning to prevent unguided attempts to practice Vajrayana. And here it's not just like general Vajrayana. Of course, it applies this idea of don't, DIY, do it yourself Vajrayana. It should come with proper guidance, but specifically, more specifically, Vajrayana's teachings on these winds, channels, and drops. Again, there are parallel systems, as Adriana was asking last time. There are parallel systems found in Qigong, Tai Chi, whatever, right? And it's not saying those things, don't practice. It's saying, although in Vajrayana there are similar things, if you want those Vajrayana things, you have to follow the Vajrayana system. And if you follow the Vajrayana system of engaging those things, then, like I was saying, historically, traditionally, most of us don't have the basic qualification yet to engage in those things. You have to finish the Ngondro, for example. But now, tremendous pressure because certain lamas, certain people are starting to teach this without that foundation. So then other lamas feel pressured to also start teaching this, weekend workshops and this and that. I don't know, it's a little So here, it's saying, if you want to engage this subject from within Vajrayana for Vajrayana purposes, then you have to do it the Vajrayana way. And so to prevent unguided entering of the mandala, the Tantras were, quote, brought into disorder. Authoritative scriptures were, quote unquote, twisted. And the pith instructions were, quote unquote, concealed. So, quote unquote, brought into disorder, quote unquote, twisted, quote unquote, concealed. So this is like saying, like Vajradhara, the primordial Buddha, the teacher of Vajrayana, deliberately made the information opaque, not obvious. The commentaries also provide some more interesting remarks, so we have looked at that. Which is that it says, the Dorshema says, the general means of practice are not hidden, but some ways in which the result is actualized, meaning like general principles of how to practice, that's not like hidden. If you know how to read these texts, you can get that information. But how it actually unfolds in your own experience, then it is not written down. And from there we can learn that it is not written down for many reasons. Well, for several reasons, right? One, again, it is so that people cannot simply pick up a book and say, I'm going to go do this. Secondly, it can be so different how it unfolds for each individual, so that only a qualified, experienced teacher can properly guide a person through these things. The text warn about people who go into these things without proper guidance will be quote-unquote destroyed. It's not like, someone outside is coming to destroy you, but it's like saying, here, go do this triple bypass surgery yourself. Here, watch a YouTube, And so these things are like in a triple bypass, so to say, And so you should not be watching a YouTube and attempting it. Yeah. And so that's why, Then further down, Doja Sherab says, but in the context of another statement, it says, mantra is like the edge of a knife, as in mantrayana and vajrayana, with the exception of the handle. Wherever you hold, it will cut you. So you need to know how to hold on to vajrayana methods, where you should hold on, which is only at the handle. Now 513. Same topic, same area, but slightly moving in the question of medical texts and the kind of information about these wind drops and channels that is found in medical tradition. So here Kyöpa Rinpoche says, the medical tradition teaches some of the ways things are, and some functions more profoundly. I don't know if the lay and karma parenthesis is helpful. I think that's a little distracting in my opinion, but that's okay. Just ignore that, not karma. Ignore the word karma, because for us karma, we're thinking of cause and effect. Here I don't think it's talking about that. Here it's talking about functions. Yeah. So it's saying, Kyöpa Rinpoche is saying, in the medical texts, the actual, like the reality of these windsdrops and channels, there are some knowledge and information found in the medical texts that are more detailed, in other words, than even in the tantras. And the functions of these winddrops and channels, and therefore in the medical tradition, with an understanding of the winds, drops, and channels, they can, oh, you have this kind of illness, it's because of the imbalance of this, and therefore you can take this drug and that, combined with that, with this diet, with this, yeah. Similarly, there's a good example how you can practice Qigong and yoga and all of that, and not run into problems again if you have, like, a Tibetan medical doctor that is prescribing you. Right? If you have a Qigong master that is prescribing you, right? If you have a yoga teacher that is prescribing you, right? Even though it's drawing from the same underlying principles of wind drops and channels, what the medical tradition is doing, its goals are different from when this kind of information is used in the Vajrayana context. Yeah. So here Kyöpa is pointing out, actually, the medical tradition has even more detailed information. And this is in response to, in particular, channels and winds are profound only in the mantra vehicle. So some people will say, like the most amazing thing about Vajrayana is actually this winds, drops, and channels. In fact, not just like people uneducated who say this. There are some even great Vajrayana scholars, like not like modern scholars, but scholars as in these great teachers of the past. Sometimes they say like the most amazing or profound teachings in the Vajrayana is the winds, drops, and channels. And you can sort of see how this understanding comes about. For example, just in the life of Gampopa, it is said that he learned everything he needed to learn about the underlying principles, the foundation, the correct view, everything. He learned from his Kadampa teachers, of which there's at least 3 of those teachers. But it wasn't until he met Milarepa, and Milarepa gave him instructions of winds, drops, and channels. Then combining his Kadampa training with Milarepa's winds, drops, and channels, Gampopa achieved enlightenment. So from that example, you might say, oh, wow, winds, drops, and channels must be the most profound. Right? Because Gampopa did not achieve his goal without those instructions. So you might say, oh, winds, drops, and channels, that is like the most amazing in Vajrayana. Yeah. Here, Kyopa actually say, no, that's not the case. In fact, he says, the medical tradition has even more detailed information about winds, drops, and channels. But the medical tradition is not producing Buddhists. The medical tradition at best is keeping people healthy. Healthy enough maybe then to practice the Dharma, but healthy enough without practicing Dharma is not going to turn you into a Buddha. I think this is his point here. And based on this principle, I can say the way I think about, like sometimes people say, oh, you can use mantra to heal this, to heal that. And I said, I don't know, these days medical science is, pretty advanced. Even if many of us are like suspicious, but hey, suspicious or not, the discovery of penicillin means that, you get a cut and you won't suddenly die. As much as, yeah, there's good reason to be suspicious of, big drug companies and everything, but objectively, medical science, modern medical science has saved so many lives, In the past, right, a woman delivering a baby, giving birth, mortality rate is very high. Now, it's the exception rather than the rule that a woman dies giving birth. So there's a lot of very amazing information beyond this statement, but using the same principle, there's so many amazing things that can make, your health better or you look better, all of that, But what is really special about Buddha's teachings are not those things. There might be shared elements, of course, But what is so amazing about the Buddha's teachings are the underlying foundational principles, which is the next Vajra statement 14. What is profound for others is not profound for us. What is not profound for others is truly profound from our point of view. Kyoba Rinpoche said this. So here Kyoba Rinpoche say, what is truly profound then about the mantra vehicle is not the channels and the winds, because you want more profound or like more exact and more amazing information. Medical text has those things. And these medical texts, they're not the Vajrayana tradition. They are an auxiliary of the Vajrayana tradition. So, Chodrat's commentary. Chodrat himself was a medical doctor too. So Chodrat in fact has a system of medicine that was well respected in his time, and it's known as like the Drigong medical system. So Chodrat himself was a medical doctor as well. So Chodrat says, the 8 limbs of medicine Ashtanga Hridaya, composed by Master Bao, says that first, during the body formation, the 4 sections that comprise the diseases occur respectively in dependence on whether mental affliction of the 3 poisons predominates. By further differentiating each of them, each one becomes 100. Each of these particular 400 diseases must be treated by different individual remedies. Concerning the treatment, since I have seen how such diseases are treated once the doctor had understood the way of being of the original nature of channels, winds, and vital essences, which is what I call drops, of that body, which is the ground, I think that the medical knowledge is very profound. So he says, myself, I have seen how doctors, when doctors really understand how the winds, the drops, and the winds, channels, and drops work, and they can, when they understand that, and then when they look at someone who is sick, and they can diagnose what is wrong, and he said, I have seen, how well they are able to treat people based on that. It's truly profound, he says, And then he quotes from this text, as the Ashtanga says, since the sicknesses of the totality of all the desires and so forth are continuously intertwined with the continuum, with the mind, they pervade the constituents of the body. Previously, a great practitioner who was able to perceive hidden things looked at disease on a man's back and thereby saw that there was a creature equal in size to a sinew. Since he related this to a doctor, it is said that the doctor removed the sickness by applying moxibustion to the upper, middle, and lower part of the body of the creature hidden in the man's back. Similar cases occur in which the doctor's medical treatment is unerring. He gives an example here. He says, there's a case where a great practitioner, so a yogi, right? A great practitioner, monk or lay, but basically a meditator, through the power of his clairvoyance, his like sharpness of mind, right? It's almost like you can say, somehow he gained like X-ray eyes, And he can see that this person who has a medical issue is because there is some sort of bug, creature in this person's back. Then he told this person's doctor, this is why this person is sick. Then when the doctor got that information, then the doctor was able to use moxibustion and then cured this person. So this is basically talking about X-ray, In the day before there is machine, then they have to go find a yogi who can see what is underneath, inside the body. Combining the two, he said, it was healed. Furthermore, the doctor ascertains the way of being of the coarse and subtle channels of the body, the primary and secondary winds that move in them, and so forth, and the vital essence that they are emitted or not emitted. Then he identifies the diseases that develop from wind, bile, and phlegm. These are the 3 humors. And from their combinations, as well as from heat and cold, by questioning combined with looking and touching. Questioning means asking the patients, interrogating. Very interesting, when you go to a Tibetan doctor, they will ask you questions. And if you answer honestly, then they can diagnose better what is wrong with you. They'll say, do you feel like cold, like in the morning when you wake up? And you really have to think, do you? Or is he like introducing the idea to you, So that's where, whether the doctor is efficacious or not, I mean, in the West, we might say that's a leading question, right? Leading question. They planted the question. But then that's how they, interrogate and said, so do you feel this? You feel that? And if you're able to clearly let the doctor know, right? Then the doctor can narrow it down to what is wrong. that is questioning, combined by looking. So the doctor would look at your eyes, look at your complexion, look at your tongue, especially. Then even diagnosis like looking at and smelling and even tasting and touching your urine. Yeah, because your urine is where your body discharges the toxin, right? So when they look at the color, they look at the bubble. When you pee into a bottle, then, that's how they examine the size of the bubble, all that, then this is part of looking. Touching, is taking pulse. Not so much like touching that much, actually, taking pulse through those methods. The doctor gives life by getting to the heart of the matter through the 4 treatments. Medicine prescribed, bloodletting, and so forth. Yes, they practice bloodletting. Dietetics, meaning diet, and conduct regulation. These 4 methods, 4 general methods. Conduct meaning, like, oh, you should not do this, you should exercise more, you should not exercise so much, or, conduct. Yeah. If you see how he does this concerning some functions and ways of being, it is certain that the system of medical treatment is profound. Yeah, so Choda says, when you observe a good doctor, their understanding of the winds, drops, and channels is way more advanced than us meditators. Moreover, with the benefit of others in mind, those who have well comprehended the vital points of the Buddha's instructions, such as the earlier Buddha by Guru, Medicine Buddha, the clairvoyant sages, Acharya Nagarjuna, Acharya Ashwagosha, and so on, have well elucidated and explained these clear and well summarized medical practices. Vajradhara did not teach this information in the Tantras. Yeah, so nonetheless, from Choda's point of view, the medical knowledge that the Tibetan medical tradition is based on, he will say, this is ultimately traced to Medicine Buddha by Guru, but for the purposes of treating ordinary disease. Extraordinary disease, which is the disease of samsara, Vajradhara taught about that. Yeah? So in the notes, according to Dorshema, people generally say the Vajra body has both defects and qualities. These arise through the dependent origination of winds and channels. Therefore, the Buddha taught in the mantra Vajrayana all the causes of the body's arising, the basis of its abiding, and all the conditions of its final disintegration. Thus, the way in which winds, channels, and their functions are profound is only as taught in the mantra Vajrayana. Rinchen Changchup ascribes the statement that medicine teaches some of the way things are more profoundly than even the Tantras. Rinchen Changchup said that Pamodrupa has already talked about this. So Jikten Sumgon's teacher also has the same opinion. He said, Pamodrupa said, having seen one copy of Acharya Virya's Ashtanga Hridaya, which is the text that Choda quoted from, said, this is very profound, and expressed his joy. The Ashtanga was influential in Tibet and was the last great Indian medical work translated into Tibetan. Since the Medical Academy of Sakya specialized in the system of this work, Pamodrupa might have come across it during his time in Sakya. Pamodrupa started with the Sakya lineage before he met Gampopa. And Pamodrupa was already a great Sakya master by the time he came to Gampopa. Of some interest is Chokyi Drakpa's observation that one cannot find the same depth and clarity of the presentation in the Tantras of Buddha Vajradhara. So this is kind of shocking for some Buddhists, to say Vajradhara did not give as detailed information as the medical text. I think some Buddhists will be quite like, how can you say that? I've even heard some lamas, when they're teaching this system, then some Westerners who have learned like the medical system, like Tibetan, and said, well, but in the medical text it said this and that. Then I saw in one YouTube, then the Lama said, oh, no, the Tantras are absolutely right. It's like, yes, the Tantras are absolutely right insofar as dispelling the ultimate disease is concerned. So I think the Lama is right, the student is right, but they're talking past each other. You see what's going on? Yeah? They're talking past each other. No, Lama is right. No, Vajradhara, Buddha Vajradhara, what he taught here is absolutely right. Yes, right for the purposes of healing the ultimate disease. Student is also right. Oh, in the medical tradition, they say this, and that. For example, I don't know very detailed, I need to research, but I do remember, right, in the medical tradition, a particular wind is said to be predominantly in this center. And a particular wind is said to be in this crown center. But in the Tantras, it's reverse. Yeah, it's reversed. So some people will say, oh, why this discrepancy, So here, if we understand the point that Gyoba is making, then we'll say, oh, actually, no problem. Because medical tradition needs to understand that particular wind to be here and this other wind to be here because of treating mundane, but very important for us, because we're mundane beings, mundane disease of body and mind. Then based on the theoretical structure of this wind being here and this other wind being here, they have developed effective means of balancing things when they go out of balance. For the purposes of, dispelling the ultimate disease, that certain wind is said to be here and the other wind is here, reversed. Because it functions differently. One time a friend who is more educated in Western science, scientific method, or modern science, he said it's like, like I think Newton's law, Newton's principles, he said, has been surpassed by more recent findings. But Newton's principles was enough for people to come up with something as amazing as aeroplane. You can see how it's not that Newton was wrong, but Newton's basic principles was enough to do so many wonderful things. But that principle, based on the most current, right, understanding of things in the field, is considered outdated. But it depends on what you want to do. So it's not so much like a black and white of right and wrong information. Right enough to accomplish this set of tasks. Not right enough to accomplish this other task. It is certainly significant that this present Vajra statement directly follows a statement, the previous statements, which says some aspects of the original state were hidden by Vajradhara. Thus, while, as Choki Drakpa states, the Tantras were brought into disorder, authoritative scriptures were twisted, and the pith instructions concealed, the present Vajra statement maintains that some functions and the way things are profoundly explained in the system of medical treatment. He explicitly mentions the doctor's understanding of the coarse and subtle channels of the body, the primary and secondary winds that move in them, and so on and so forth. Thus, when Choki Drakpa says that the, quote, clear and well summarized medical practices, which has been elucidated, so this list of names, this apparently does not only mean the obvious, namely that Vajradhara did not teach these medical practices in the Tantras, but also that the knowledge of the channels, winds, and drops, ways of being and functioning, are more profoundly expressed in the medical literature. And it goes back to, I think, the same underlying point, which is Kyoba Rinpoche wants to say. Don't get so excited by these things. This energy movement and all of that. And this is clearly what this next statement is about, which is what is profound for others is not profound for us. What is not profound for others is truly profound for us. Why did he say that? Because people claim that the pith instructions of channels and winds are more profound than the three vows, and so forth. The three vows meaning the three basic trainings, training in the individual liberation vow, trainings in the bodhisattva, training in the Vidyadhara mantra practitioner. These three sets of vows are at the root of what we practice and what we give up, what we engage in and what we discard, what the Buddha has prescribed and what the Buddha has proscribed in terms of actions of body, speech, and mind. They are all in these three levels of training, or the three crucial elements of training. The so-called Hinayana, the so-called Mahayana, the so-called Vajrayana. So Kyoba Rinpoche said, that's truly profound. But people instead chase after these pith instructions. Again, you can see how, like, if you read Gampopa's story out of context, you may say, oh, it's the winds and the drops information that made him awaken. Therefore, who can teach me that? Who can teach me that, But without the foundation that he received from his Kadampa training, probably instructions on winds and drops do not lead anywhere. This particular Vajra statement is very famous. Everybody quotes it, even outside of Drigong. Everybody quotes this. Kyoba Rinpoche's, what is profound for others is not profound for us. What is not profound for others is profound for us. Then 15 is stating the same thing from the side. It says, lacking the so-called, what other people call non-profound instructions, meaning the foundational, one will not attain Buddhahood through the profound ones, i.e. the channels and winds. Even more forcefully saying, Then, of course, it's like it says, if the information on channels and winds and your ability to work with that is the most important, then everyone in the medical tradition are Buddhists. Yeah? But they're not. But Milarepa Gampopa have only, you know, relatively imprecise, right, information about winds and channels compared to the medical text. But that impreciseness was enough for them to solve the problem and to achieve Buddhahood. That's the meaning. So 14 and 15, two sides of the same coin. Yeah, so we will stop here. We'll start next on Monday, 14 and 15. Then some of you are registered for this weekend's program. Then I will see you guys this weekend. I think maybe several of you, 2 or 3 from Guatemala, and maybe 1 from Asheville in this group, I think is registered. So we will, you know, no new information, you know, but information that we have to hear again and again. Whether tomorrow will come first or next life will come first, we don't know. So, yeah. But we still have to make plans. We still have to pretend like, you know, definitely tomorrow will come first. Including registering for the program. We have to pretend, oh, of course tomorrow will come first.
Dr. Lai?
Yes.
Can you talk us about the next year? The next year.
Next year? What do you mean?
Yeah, the last year was the rat year.
Oh yeah, this next year is ox.
What does it mean? It has a special meaning?
No.
No.
I mean, every year, you know, it's just another year. What do you mean?
Is it gonna be different? I mean, with different behavior? Do we have to expect something?
No.
There's a reason why every year has a different animal.
Well, there's a reason why today is called Friday and tomorrow is called Saturday, but you know.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it's just as a way of distinguishing, you know.
I mean, I think they had to survive. We had to survive the last year because we had all this pandemic.
No, this
and
is
everything.
only, this interpretation only came after the disaster came. Before the disaster came, I can tell you, nobody predicted this disaster. All these famous, oh, the red year will be this, the red year will be that. Nobody said, the red year, you will all be imprisoned. Really, nobody said that. Okay? So for me, whatever people want to say about the ox, forget it, okay?
Okay. So we have to just figure it out day by day.
Yeah, we just practice the Dharma, you know, that's the most reliable, you know. Of course, you know, because people mix up these things, you know, then some people say, oh, this Lama said this Lama said that. I was like, no Lama, as far as I know, said, you know, in like October of last year, the year previous, you know, oh, this whole next year, all of you will be in retreat, you know. Nobody said that, you know.
Okay. Thank you.
Nobody said that, you know. And so, who knows? Yeah. Who knows?
Okay.
Yeah, there are astrological tradition, including astrological tradition that Tibetans believe in and Chinese believe in. So generally speaking, not on the like world stage, but on a personal level, according to this astrological system, whenever your sign occurs, they say it will be more challenging for you. Yeah. In the West, we're like, oh, yay, it's my year. It's the year of the dog, year of the dog, year of the dog, you know. It's like, according to the astrological system that these zodiac stuff is concerned, it says the year that you cycle back, right, that you're born in, that is going to be a challenging year. Yeah.
Well, I do not have to worry. I'm a horse.
Yeah, but in the zodiac also, so the zodiac of 12, right? There are 3 animals that are friends, which is the triangle, like the opposite. You know, the other 2 corners. You all know what I'm talking about when you have.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So this year is the year of the ox coming up. So people in the ox year will have personal challenges, right? Then the other 2, right? They have secondary challenges, they say.
Oh.
So you have to look and see.
Yeah, I'm gonna look for it.
Yeah. But this is again on a personal level. I mean, you know, do you want to believe these things? Do you not want to believe these things? I don't know. I think the more you believe these things, then the more trouble comes. For a short number of years, you know, I think fairly recent, for a short number of years, I, you know, paid attention to that. Then I think it became more troublesome. Then when I stopped paying attention to it, then finish. Which is like the same, like this medical tradition, Zalong and Tigle, you know, windstrops and channels, right? Ultimately, if you have the right conditions to take advantage of this kind of information, then it's helpful. And this is even related to, like, you know, is knowledge always good? Well, I don't know. I don't think so. Part of why now this crisis of like what is truth, what is alternative facts, all of that, it's because we bought into the idea that information is always good. Now we have so much information, we don't even know what to do with the information. Then some of us have turned completely away from information, right, for alternative information. Until you cannot even tell really what is what. Even me, like, oh, maybe that is true, you know. So much doubt. Which, if you're Nagarjuna, oh, he's like, yes, wonderful. Everyone is confused now. But Nagarjuna, and Nagarjuna will never fall into nihilism. But the rest of us, when we relativize everything, we fall into nihilism. That's why generally around the world is so nihilistic these days. Whether you're on the left, whether you're on the right, you're far left, far right, all is under the power of nihilism. This is Nagarjuna gone wrong. Because it has called into question all truths. Which Nagarjuna is doing that, but Nagarjuna doesn't fall into nihilism. Same, I think, you know. So with regards to the astrological information, you know, it's like, yeah, are you able to take the information that proper astrological systems provide you and actually, you know, move in a positive way, in a helpful way? Or are you going to be sunk by the information that, oh, it's going to be a challenging year? Then it becomes nihilistic. Yeah. So I tell you one story. I heard this at the Kalachakra that the Dalai Lama was giving. At the end, he says, okay, according to the tradition, I now have to recite this long document. It's a document recited at the end of like a big like event like Kalachakra, where he has to say, on this day, at this auspicious time, this auspicious blah, 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 blah. All these auspicious things were accomplished and how wonderful and how great and everything, he said, you know. Basically, his Holiness like, no, I'm not going to do this. You know, they have prepared the document, but we don't need to do this. he said, this is, I don't know. I think maybe he did it. But anyway, he prefaced it by saying, this is what I'm going to be reciting next. You know, he wanted the audience who don't know Tibetan to understand, you know, this long section where he's like, and then he said, oh, and this, you know, reminded me of, in the fifth Dalai Lama's autobiography, there's one section where he talked about, he says, it reminds me of this passage. The current Dalai Lama said, the fifth Dalai Lama said, you know, in his autobiography, he said, you know, I was born, you know, on this day, on this year, this month, this day, and this hour, you know. And it is said that this year is such a, you know, amazing, auspicious year, and this month, and this day, and this time, you know, how wonderful, how great, blah, 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 blah. You know, Fifth Dalai Lama in his autobiography here, he wrote that. You know, like a long passage, you know, on how, in other words, like, according to tradition, you know, how auspicious his time of birth was. And then he said, and also, in that same moment, thousands and thousands of dogs were also born. Okay, in that system, dogs are not like, ooh, dogs, like lowly. And he said, in that same moment, when I was born, thousands of dogs were also born into the world. So he said, get over it. For every fifth Dalai Lama born at that exact moment, probably, you know, thousands of other crooks were also born in that moment.
Yeah, what he meant is that he was not that special.
No, what he meant was, special or not has nothing to do with the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which is fundamentally what Buddha says, you know. Buddha says, you know, of course, you know, like in Buddhist culture, there's a lot of like auspicious day, auspicious time, you know. But the more important underlying principle, Buddha says, when the mind is auspicious, all times are auspicious.
Yeah, but what was important is what he did.
Yes, what he did. Yeah, our actions determine.
After that moment of he was born.
Yes. Yeah, our actions determine the quality of our lives. That's most fundamental. Yeah. Then when you have information like, oh, this particular day, this particular time, because of the way how things are positioned, there's an opportunity for you to do something great. Great. You know, again, it's not to like either or. Oh, this is right, this is wrong. That's also not my point. My point is, first, we have to understand again, you know, so this elaborates on this point. Yeah? The so-called non-profound, that we need to get very, very clear. Intellectually clear, emotionally clear, stabilize. Intellectually clear about what is cause and effect. How does cause and effect generally operate? Intellectually clear. Emotionally clear about cause and effect is to gain more trust. That whatever good and bad that turns up for us, personally, I'm feeling good today, I'm feeling not good today. I'm feeling love today, I'm feeling not love today. Whatever good and bad that turns up, you emotionally settle into, this is ripening of karma, no problem. When you have that kind of foundation stable, then if you learn something about astrologically today is because of this or that, you can actually do something positive about it. But if you don't have this foundation stable, and you're just jumping from this astrology to that astrology and this and that and this and that, and think you can actually do something, the more information you get, the more troublesome your life becomes. Yeah. It's same with the information about, you know, energy, all of that, you know. It's not that they are not useful. They are only useful when your foundation is stable, clear and stable. Yeah.
Gracias.
So, Changju Semcho Rinpoche Mage Banam Ge Gyurche Ge Ba Nyam Ba Me Pa Yang Gong Ne Gong Du Bil Shu. Okay, Tata.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Gracias.